Hey everyone, I'm Joe and today it's time for me to do my October reading wrap up part 2. This is everything I read from October the 17th until October the 31st. I've read 5 books in the second half of October, which I'm really happy about. A couple of them I really enjoyed, a couple of them were pretty good, and one of them was fairly mediocre. And indeed, the first book I'm going to talk about is the mediocre one, especially because it's an author. So, Revenger by Alastair Reynolds. This was sent to me, by the publisher, big hardback, about 2 months ago now, or 1 month ago, and I finally got around to actually reading it, so thank you to them. This is a science fiction space opera book. It is from a first person perspective. It is also, unfortunately for me, a young adult science fiction space opera book. As you may know by now, young adult books do not work for me, and frankly, I suspect that's the main reason why this book didn't particularly work for me as well. The plot was interesting enough. It is about 2 young women, Adriana and Fiora Ness. They get a job basically on a spaceship as a form of sort of communications people, essentially. And one of them gets kidnapped, and then the other, Fiora, wants to find her and basically goes on like a revenge if anything has happened to her, hence the title Revenger. The idea is perfectly good. The book moves along at a good pace, and there are lots of good points about it. However, the plot felt very overly convenient most of the time. Actually, it's like, oh yes, these things have happened, and the little bit of history that you got explained conveniently is perfect for what the characters now need, not the ending to the book. The little things, the items and the equipment and the experience of certain characters is perfectly in tune with what they need for that particular moment. And whilst I know books have to have that because the plots don't work, this felt very obviously convenient, and it damaged the book a bit. Also, the main character, who is the person who the first person perspective follows, Fiora, frankly, is kind of annoying, and you don't really particularly like her. At least I didn't like her. So, just the book was okay, but nothing special. Frankly, it feels very different from the other Reynolds that I've read, which I haven't read that much of him so far. But the Revelation Space trilogy, which I loved from him, is completely different from this. I mean, in absolutely every way, it feels like a different author, frankly. So, this was okay. The next book was 2312 by Stanley Robinson. I finally got around to reading this. This is set in the same universe as the Mars trilogy, which I absolutely loved 1 or 2 years ago. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. I think it might have been the year before, in fact. And I didn't love this as much as the Mars trilogy, frankly. But that would have been extremely hard to live up to because I absolutely loved that trilogy. I mean, it was frankly phenomenal. I mean, it won Hugo Awards and Nebulas, all 3 books still, I believe. So, frankly, it would be hard for anybody to live up to. This was pretty good though. It is set in the same universe. Obviously, this focuses around Earth this time and not Mars. Basically, it's set after the events of the Mars trilogy, and basically, Earth, as is told in the Mars trilogy, has been suffering really badly. They're running out of natural resources, and basically, it's a complete mess. Earth is as a planet. Frankly, and by the looks of what our planet, our real Earth is going, we may not be that far from it in some cases. And indeed, that is what Robinson is trying to talk about. He's talking about ecology and the world, and he's sort of trying to almost like say like what the dangers could be if we don't watch what we're doing and how we're treating ourselves and the world around us. And it's an interesting story. I mean, the plot sort of does lose its way a little bit, frankly, compared to the actual overall ideas and the messages he's trying to say in it. But that's not really a problem because the way he's saying it is so interesting and he's so passionate that frankly you can forgive that sort of loss of plot direction, frankly, or at least I can, because I really did enjoy this. I think it will work better on a reread, however, in the future, because there's a few things that I didn't quite gel me this time around, but I know that will probably work at a future point. So I'm quite happy I read this. The third book is Dark Eden by Beckett. I went to an author event only a few weeks ago with this author and got this book signed, which I can show you there. So it was a really small little author event. There's only actually 10 people in the audience, and I was actually sitting literally about 3 feet away from the author. So I really heard and got a good feeling of what he was trying to achieve with both this book and indeed the other 2 books, because it's part of a trilogy, although not a hard, really fixed trilogy. It's quite the other 2 books are sort of fairly open and don't really follow that closely on from this too badly. And also from what Beckett is like as an author and what he tries to achieve in his books. This I really did enjoy. It is about the descendants of 2 survivors of a spaceship crash. They have children and their descendants have children and so on and so on. And but obviously it features inbreeding and incest, frankly, because there's only 2 people and their children have to have children together, which is frankly disturbing. There are lots of slightly unsettling parts of this book. However, despite the unsettling part of it, that's also why this book kind of works, because you're sort of uncomfortable with a lot of it. I mean, incest and obviously there are physical deformities and mental issues to do with the rather heavy inbreeding that's gone on, and it kind of works for that, because you want to know, could this be possible as such, and why are they stuck on this planet, and will there be a rescue? Because the survivors, they do not want to leave the area where the spaceship crashed, but the area has been obviously drained of resources. They've eaten everything in the area over generations. Very few animals are now remaining, and basically they're getting to a point where they're almost starting to starve to death, frankly. They're really, really struggling. They're spending all their time is just hunting, gathering. There's no time to think about anything else ever. And one person in particular, the main character who it follows, although there is more points of view, thinks there should be more to life than just gaining food and having children and breeding, basically. That is a peculiar idea to the rest of the people. So it's an interesting plot, unsettling, but it does work in an odd way, and I'm quite happy to read the 2 sequels, although I'm not in a rush to read them because they're not really hard fixed sequels where they're not directly continuing off from where this left off. They continue sort of off, but not fully, which is fine. The next book was also a reread, and that is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I also went to a literary event with Becky Chambers, actually the night after the one with Beckett, and I got this signed, which I can show you here. And yet again, I was sitting right at the absolute front. I was actually sitting probably about 3 foot away from Becky Chambers. I physically couldn't have sat closer to Becky Chambers without sitting on the sofa next to her, which frankly would have been really awkward for both of us, frankly, and everybody else, because it would have been weird. Anyway, this is a science fiction book. It was released in 2014. I read it last year, I think it was. It could have been the year before, I can't remember now. I loved it then, and I still frankly love it now. There's just been a sequel to this, of sorts, released, called A Closed and Common Orbit, which follows 2 other characters. It's not a direct hard sequel, yet again. It just follows 2 characters on a sort of side adventures on their own plot line, and which I do greatly want to read. This I decided to reread due to the literary event where I meet Becky Chambers, and indeed, everybody's asking questions of her, and frankly, she was a really interesting person to meet and speak to. The one thing I didn't expect from Becky Chambers, I'm not talking about the book here, is the fact that she was actually speaking, and indeed she is, American. I wasn't expecting an American accent. For some reason, I always was under the impression that she was English. I don't know why, but I did. And so when I heard an American accent, I was really surprised, actually. I mean, I'm used to American accents. I mean, most of the booktubers I talk to a lot often seem to be American, but it was a surprise. I love this book, though. It is about the crew of a ship called the Wayfarer, and indeed that's the name of the series. They are a wormhole tunnelling ship. They get a new contract to go to this destination, which will take them a long time, head start the long way. When they get there, they will basically dig a tunnel through subspace back to create this wormhole, and then future ships can then travel backwards and forwards through this stable wormhole that they've created. The story is not just about the plot, actually that's relatively minor, about the wormhole and things, that's insignificant really. It is about the character building and indeed the character development and the character interaction. The characters in this book are all important. Well, actually they're not just all important, they are everything to this book. They are the book. The way they interact and the way they get on and sort of socialise on board the ship, and they have to get to know one another, is frankly fantastic. This is phenomenal world building and character building, sorry, actually meant. Although the world building is really, really good as well. And obviously the world building then will lead into other books. She's indeed writing a third book, in fact set in this same universe. Again, it won't be a direct sequel to it because she doesn't want to write a direct sequel to this. She said, I mean, it's been well known for a while. She will write other books set on other, sort of tangents within the universe, which I'm personally very happy for. I cannot recommend this book enough, and frankly, most of BookTube will probably recommend this book rather heavily as well, because this was extremely popular on BookTube last year, and it still is, and the sequel will be just as popular now and next year as well. So, a brilliant book, frankly, that I loved. And finally, the fifth and final book is The Stone That Never Came Down by John Brunner. I have never read a book by John Brunner before, so this is the first. John Brunner is an older science fiction author from the 50s, 60s and 70s. I believe, I could be slightly out, it's roughly around then, sort of one of the classic SF authors. This is an interesting science fiction book where the Earth has basically and society is almost collapsed. We are on the verge of World War III, full-on nuclear war, and a character in the book discovers that there is a drug that could potentially change the way we think and make us not have nuclear war, but it will fundamentally change us as a species, as Homo sapiens. It will change the way we think, so we won't really be the same anymore. And the whole question of the book is, if that situation were to occur, if we could stop wars but at the expense of changing who we are at a fundamental level, should we do it? I mean, is it something that any one person can do, or even a group of people or a government? Is it something that we're capable of doing? And just on a moral level, morally, is it right to change what we are, even if it's to save the species? It's an interesting question. It's psychological and introspective on humanity and the whole human experience, and it may only be a small book, but actually I found it quite interesting and well worth reading. It's only quick as well due to the size, so I would recommend it if you can find it somewhere. I mean, this is an old copy that I bought second hand. You probably won't be able to find it. No, I don't think they print it for decades now, same as lots of older science fiction books. So if you can find this, or if I indeed go to the library and get it, I would recommend it because it's an interesting little book. So with that said, that's it for everything I've read in the second half of October. 5 books in total, all of which I liked to certain degrees. The Avenger not so much, the others probably more so. As is always the case, frankly, every month, there's always brilliant books and there's always mediocre ones. If you've read any of these books or would like to, then please leave a comment and we can have a discussion. All my social media links can be found in the description box below as well. And with that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.